Back with the Wolverine.com videocast. I'm Chris Ballas, senior editor of TheWolverine.com. With me, John Borton, senior editor of the Wolverine magazine. And John, we're here to talk about the offense in, 5 to 7 minutes and some of the problems.
Gives you a lot to talk about.
Good luck with that.
Talk
so let's
fast.
talk quickly. Exactly. Let's start, first of all, with the turnovers. Unbelievable to me that this team is 4-0, given that they're turning the ball over at an unbelievable rate. Probably one of the worst teams in the country.
It goes against everything that we've ever been taught or ever knew about college football. Yeah. That's what gets you beat. And quite frankly, had they not played Akron and UConn, they'd be 2-2 right now.
Right.
Turning it over at that rate, it just can't go on. Brady Hope knows it. I mean, he preaches it all the time. And he'll tell you in a heartbeat the difference between 11-2 that first year that he was here and 8-5 last year was completely turnovers. And now they've got to right the ship.
Yeah, and how do you do it, though? It's an epidemic, and are they going to have to scale back the playbook a little bit? Because we asked Brady Hoke about that a couple of weeks ago. Are you going to put Devin Gardner in situations where he's a little bit more safe, kind of like you did with Denard Robinson against Notre Dame?
It's interesting. You did scale it back last year after the Notre Dame game. I just don't see how much they can scale things back. They have to get Devin to make better decisions at better times. I think, last year, those last 5 games, when Michigan had to bring Devin Gardner in at quarterback, he averaged 1 interception a game.
Right.
He looked pretty much in control back there, not really panicked or anything else, and you got the feeling that that was just going to carry in. Well, it hasn't. Not only have they given up, not only turned the ball over, but, those turnovers are turning into scores. You get the pick sixes, you get the fumbles, all that. And I just think that part of it stems from his own notion that he has to make plays.
Superman complex, right?
And exactly. You got and you don't have an offensive line performing at a high level in front of him, and that's an issue.
Right now, 1 interception a game sounds pretty good. I think you take that if you can be given that in advance. So let's talk about that interior line for a minute. Changes that we expect now that it's a bye week, and Brady Hoke did say after the game on his radio show, he said we really have to evaluate our personnel. Do you think that means that there are changes coming on the offensive line? Because I see in watching the film, you see, especially in the interior line, at center, and you don't want to single out one guy, but that is the most important position on the field. Do you expect maybe a Chris Bryant to get a look at guard and maybe Graham Glasgow to move to center? Because I think that might happen.
That's the move that most people, I think, expect. I mean, I've heard some talk that, you could bring a Schofield back inside at right guard, and who knows, that could happen. But I talked to him a week ago, and he said he hadn't practiced at all at guard, but he spent a lot of time there. I mean, he could pick that back up. Bryant, the concern there is how well does he hold up physically, because he has been hurt a few times. But I think that's a move that could be made. So, I mean, it's certainly one that you look for. They need more strength and more push up front. They're not getting it. However they have to go about that, we're going to have to see what they do.
And it's not just limited to the linemen. You look at the tight ends, and Devin Funchess, here's a guy who has got all the talent in the world, but he's got to be a better blocker, and you're going to see his playing time diminish if you're making these outstanding play like he did against Akron, for example, and you're giving it back by refusing to block on the perimeter. You're looking at Jake Buck as your freshman tight end, in my opinion, was the best blocking tight end they had in that Connecticut game.
Yeah, you either see, I don't know, as you see his time scaled back as much, or used in a different role.
Yeah.
Put him in the slot.
He's still got to block.
Put him in,
he does.
Not
as much as at a tight end.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You could see more of a situation where he's almost used as a receiver, and but they want him to learn. I mean, they've been pushing him, but he's not there yet.
Yeah, and you talk about that in fullbacks as well. We always hear about being the hammer or the nail when you're playing the fullback position. You don't want to say a lot of nailing going on. That doesn't sound right. But a lot of guys who are getting hammered there, and you need to see a little bit more physicality, in my opinion, at that position too.
I think so. Yeah. But it all, when that offensive line is allowing linebackers to run free through there almost, it's very difficult in that position. So, and I think, honestly, beyond the changes that we know have to be made, first in approach for the quarterback and his decision making, second for the offensive line, I think third, this bye week is just gigantic in terms of healing up.
Yeah.
We know that Jeremy Gallon has had hamstring issues.
Yep.
We know Taylor Lewan did not look like he was moving like he can. He was in a boot earlier in the week.
Yep.
Devin Gardner, nobody says what, but he's been banged around.
Absolutely.
I just think this is a great time for this team to get a little more healthy.
Yeah, without question. Devin Funchess has been banged up. And also, I think the last issue we want to talk about, wide receiver. You've still got one guy that you're relying too much on in Jeremy Gallen. You've seen some tight ends catch some balls too. How important is it that a J.U. Chesson continues to emerge, or a second option out there? We haven't seen Jeremy Jackson catch a lot of passes. Joe Reynolds has caught a few in the first couple of games, but teams are going to be clamping down on Jeremy Gallen now. They're going to have to find some other options.
There's no doubt. And Chesson, from that standpoint, has to step into that role. He has showed flashes, but he's got to show more strength. He had a ball taken away from him on a dual possession up there at UConn. I think that Funchess can serve in a receiver role a little bit more if Jake Budd is in there and doing the job at tight end. You don't know about the freshmen, but this is also a time when one of them might be able to step up. We saw DeMario Jones out on the field, for special teams, but is one of those guys ready to make a step?
Which is the real Michigan offense, the first 2 weeks or the second 2 weeks? I guess we'll find out in Big Ten play, and we'll talk more about that next week.